What does it take to deliver more than 60 billion AI predictions a day while keeping the trust of over 140 million members? Well, my guest today is the head of engineering at Intuit Credit Karma, and he leads the company's largest organisation to make that happen. So his name's Wan, and in our conversation today, he's going to share how he and his team are modernising their data platform, building AI-first experiences, and merging the strengths of Intuit and Credit Karma's ecosystems. And we'll also explore how fintech leaders can balance speed, personalisation and compliance in a world where AI is becoming the default expectation. But how are they doing this? What are the challenges that they've come across along the way? These are a few of the things that we will learn from my guest today. Now, before I bring my guest onto the podcast, I want to thank our sponsor, Careerist. Because imagine being able to work remotely, earn a six-figure salary, and finally have room to grow in a new career without having to learn how to code. That is what Careerist QA Bootcamp makes possible. And in just 4 months, you'll get live training, a 100% remote internship, and personal coaching to guide you into a tech career. Now, right now, there are 37,000 QA roles open in the US, and with starting salaries as high as $105,000, it's an attractive option for so many reasons. And Careerist graduates are already working at companies across 42 states. And if you have a quick look on Trustpilot, users over there are rating the program 4.7 stars. And here's the real clincher. It's risk-free. Land a job or get your tuition back. But seats for the next class are filling very quickly, but you'll find the link in the show notes. Please check it out. I'd love to hear how you get on. Maybe this could be your moment where you land that career in tech that you've been thinking of, or convincing yourself you don't have the right skills, because believe me, this is open to everyone. But now, back to today's show, and let's jump into the interview with my guest today. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor. My name is Wan Agus, and I lead all the engineering functions here at Credit Karma. I've been here for 5 years, 5.5 years. And a lot of folks, especially in the US, know Credit Karma as the free credit score company. But we go way beyond that, which I'll be excited to talk more about that later. But yeah, the mission is to help all our members, which we have about 140 million of, to make progress in their financial life.
Well, there's so much I'm looking forward to exploring with you around that and all things Credit Karma. But before we do, I always like to dig a little bit deeper on the origin story of my guest. So let's start with your journey. I mean, from Walmart, Macy's, to leading the largest org at Credit Karma. I'm curious, what drew you into fintech and what keeps you excited about this space?
Absolutely. So one way to draw the connection from e-commerce, which is I spent about 10 years on, to fintech. And I don't think this is tenuous at all. So in e-commerce, oftentimes you have to think hard about how do you sell, right? Because it's all about selling. If you're gonna sell AA batteries, okay, everybody need one. You just make sure it's there. The price is reasonable. But when you're trying to sell something that's more up there, like sofa set, right? Something that's like a high ticket, item. Then you really need to, contextualize it. You need to really build the intent, all of those things. So when you think about fintech, it's about that. So when you think about it like credit cards, it's kind of like everybody need it. Just like you getting your AA batteries. But then when you start thinking about like home loan, well, do you really need a home? Some people may not, some people do. And you really have to contextualize, you really have to work for it. And you want to make sure it's what's the right thing for them as well. Auto loan, right? And then personal loan. So that's one thing I would connect the dots there. And obviously, from my perspective, I mean, fintech brings a lot of like complexity that I haven't had to deal a lot before in my previous e-commerce career. Things like privacy and security, which is very, very important. And I've always been drawn to like how do you move fast and still move fast in a world where you absolutely cannot make mistakes? Because in e-commerce, if you send more than one items that the customer order, okay, not the end of the world. But in a fintech, you have to be careful. Like the room for mistakes is zero, and again, you have to protect the customers, or in the case, our members' privacy and data. So the complexity there, but still moving fast, and the potential of making an even bigger impact in their life. To me, it's it's a draw there for fintech.
And fast forward to present day, and it is all about Credit Karma. And you've been tasked with bringing together two engineering cultures and tech stacks all under the Intuit umbrella. So what's been the most surprising challenge in that process, and what's worked well? I'm sure you've had more than a few stories during this process, but anything you can share?
Absolutely. So yes, thanks for that question, because I do want to mention that Credit Karma, Intuit acquired Credit Karma about at the end of 2020. So that's what is that, about 4.5 years ago now.
Yeah.
And these are two different tech ecosystem. So Credit Karma uses GCP and exploit a lot of the cloud native features of it. Again, for making sure that we get the best bang for the buck. And Intuit is on AWS and a lot other kind of like Intuit built tech ecosystem as well. But really the value, right, that we've realized that through the journey, the value is the togetherness of it, the ecosystem itself for the member, and we started, and like you said, Neil, is like integrating those is not easy at all. But the moment we realize how much value you can unlock, it's all worth it. And I think we've been well on the journey now for about 2.5 years. I would start with this. For a lot of folks, for a lot of engineers, and I love board games, and for those people when you play board games, when you play the Euro side of the board games, Neil, like that part of the continent we come from, Euro board games are usually much more complex. It's not your Monopoly, right? There's a lot of rules, and but so in this case, I look at it as playing two board games, right? So connected to each other. So, and it's even more fun when you're like really trying to figure it out. So that's first of all, that's the way I approach it. Now, getting into like a little bit more details here. So how to make this capability seem seamless? We first have to figure out how to federate the identity system, right? So because we don't want that's where the seams are usually shown. When you move from one capabilities to another, and then you have to like log in, you have to 2FA and stuff like that. So that is our first thing, and I think we've been largely very successful on that. I think we in the recent tax season, April 16 ending there, we saw the stats about 70% of the Credit Karma members are able to use TurboTax without even logging in. Like it's just boom, just get in there. And that number is going to get better, and it's going to unlock a lot more. So there's a lot of up down the line. Identity is one, and then I'll just close it with data. Having data, not only visibility on both sides, because Intuit has a ton of data. We have a ton of data, but really, how do you rationalize it? So we know that the Neil over there in Intuit is the Neil over there in CK. Making sure the same Neil Hughes, but then also we have all these attributes about Neil. We have thousands of, and then we're trying to figure out which are the canonical. And then we're trying to, in the mission of trying to really understand Neil, so to serve you better as well. That's a lot of work, but that's fundamental, right? Foundational. So if we don't get that right, all the features we built on top of it, not really going to resonate. So we really need to make sure, like, combine knowledge about you, so that, we can be like hitting bullseye when we start building features on top of it.
And you've got over 140 million members. So Credit Card has got this huge data footprint, which must be a huge challenge on its own. So how are you modernizing the data platform to deliver more personalized and more meaningful engagement at scale? Because for a lot of business leaders listening, they'll be interested in how you achieve this. A massive achievement, right?
Yeah, the short answer is the work all never stops. It's always there. It's a continuous journey. So um, I cannot take credit. I mean, I've been here for 5.5 years. When I came in, one of the reasons why I think you asked earlier, why fintech and specifically why Credit Karma, why Intuit, it's the amount. A is the amount of data, and B, what do you do on top of it? So I'll give you a bit more concrete things. So in Credit Karma, when I joined, I think that stats that blew me away was Credit Karma generates about 60 billion predictions a day, right? And what do we do with these predictions? I mean, this is what I came back to, previously talked about trying to figure out what's best for you in your current financial state. Are you trying to buy a home? Is your credit card the best credit card for you in your wallet right now? What about the loans? Like, can we lower your interest rate? What offer is best for you? Because we don't want you to be like, we are not here to make you click on offer on like, hey, here's a credit card. We don't make money out of that. So, yeah. and we know that if you just click on and apply for a product, for a financial product, and you don't get it because we poorly done our job, because your credit score is going to come down, right? And it's lose for everyone. Then you have to wait for your credit score to come back up again to figure out which financial product. So it's really important for us to get it right. So to your question, is kind of what do we do with this data? Well, it's the data itself. We continually when you have a massive amount of data, you're gonna have to. It's very important. It's like you have a big house, you have a lot of furniture. It's like, well, first of all, like you need to, you're not going to use all the space and all the furniture all the time. So you need to make sure like you really rationalize like why using the data and then what are you going to do with it. And last thing I will close is that the infrastructure underneath it continually, evolving, right? So like at this point right now, we are working on migration to a lot of the NVIDIA Triton kind of infra server that we've been looking at, and so we are well on our journey. And that's something that because of the massive amount of data, that's something that we started like a couple of years ago. So when it was like brand new, right? But so we have to be on the cutting edge, but knowing that whatever is on the cutting edge is not going to probably scale to what we need, but we have to start because the massive amount of data usually take us quite a while as well, right? To be able to really productionalizing it. But at that point, that what used to be cutting edge is now ready for scale, right? So we just have to like keep at it, which makes the job really fun, I'll be honest.
And we're going to have a lot of AI involved, making things easier. AI first experience, another powerful phrase. So can you walk me through what that looks like in real terms, especially when you're trying to balance innovation with regulatory complexity? It's a very fine line to tread, a difficult balance to achieve, I would imagine. But tell me more about that.
Yeah. That's, oh my God. Yeah. That's giving me a lot of white hair, how to make sure our AI is safe. Because we talked about earlier about, if you're in e-commerce, and I'm not trying to beat up e-commerce here. It's just like, but there's just the feeling that if you're in e-commerce, your AI made a mistake. All right. I mean, there, don't get me wrong. Repercussions are there. Wrong thing got shipped and charged, you can always refund it. But if you're in space like ours, right? So I feel a lot of like, empathy with Tesla, of course, because because if they mess up, I mean, it's life's lost. I think in our case, if you mess up, well, it's people's financial life, which is absolutely you can't. So here's the way I look at it. Andrej Karpathy, right, who coined the term, like he used to work for, he's a pretty famous speaker. I think the audience probably know who he is already. But I would say he had this famous talks about what software 2.0 is a few years ago, and then recently he talked about software 3.0. So let me just go through that very quickly. Software 1.0 is like you writing lines of code, right? So that's everybody what writing software is. And software 2.0 is what he means is like how do you use machine learning model, neural nets, all of those things, right? So your traditional AI, so to speak. All right. So, and then a software 3.0 is using GenAI, using LLM, so, and he had these talks, people can look it up on YouTube and podcast. It's very famous. To deliver value, typically it's not only just one or the other. I think it's a mix, right? Everybody started, in the old days, writing it with 1.0. And then, so in this case, he made an example of FSD, right? So everything is just like, C code, a bunch of like C++ C code. And then you start replacing certain functions with neural nets. And then over time, those functions grow and grow. And then you ended up having to, you can just start deleting your 1.0 and making it to footprint smaller. And then now you have 3.0 coming in, right? So, but it's not going to, because of the safety, you want to make sure, there is like really, guardrails around it, observability and all those kind of things. So the job is making sure, like, you know where to use the right tools. And then for CK, we started out with a good mix of 1.0 and 2.0. Like when I started, we already like rocking and rolling with like this 50 billion, which is now 60 billion predictions, really, which is basically your software 2.0, right? So you come in, you see credit score, you see all this experience, that's 1.0. And then, but when we are trying to like behind the screen, predict like what are you trying to do with your goals, which offer is best for you, and you're going to get approved, all of those kind of things, that's 2.0. So when about 3 years ago, when when OpenAI ChatGPT 3.5, really hit the masses, we I think in 3 months we released kind of Ask Me Anything, like a chatbot that can talk about your financial life, and the aim there is to learn, right? So I think that was what we thought about as like the best way to figure out what our members actually need this new technology for, because it's very nascent. I think at that point, I think everybody knows. So but that's the point of it. Like we quickly launched it, and we're trying to learn what people are using it for. We observe what's going on. We look at the efficacy, how safe is it? It is all this kind of thing. So we were able to do that. So again, like I thought of that as like a 3.0. And then from there, we've been evolving those features, looking again at the safety part of it and what the members actually find valuable. So we launched features such as tax advisor, wallet analyzer, looking at the credit cards in your wallet, and hey, maybe there is a gap, like looking at your spending habit, and maybe there's a gap there where we can help point out. It's like, hey, you are eligible for this 2% cashback. So, but you really keep using this credit card that you had for 15 years. Maybe you should consider that. We've looked into debt consolidation. So we look at a lot of different use cases, which in itself is now evolving into agents. But I'll give this a lot of these things. Still, I want to like put a dose of realism here as well. We want to move fast, right? But we also want to make sure that we are doing it in a safe way, and we can observe, and from there, that's how you improve these things as well. So, but yeah, it's just basically a mix. Like it's like you're a chef in the kitchen, and you need to make sure you have the right ingredients at the right ratio as well.
And looking at everything that Credit Karma offers your users, your team has to support everything behind the scenes, from credit cards and loans to auto and mortgages, etc. So how do you manage engineering focus across so many different verticals or while maintaining a seamless experience for the user? Because as a user, you kind of take it for granted that you've got access to all these different things, but it must be quite challenging behind the scenes.
Yes, we have engineers who are, first of all, we want, when we look at our engagement survey, not typically, it always is, the number one, our strength is always been mission, the belief in a mission. So whether you're engineers or marketers, doesn't matter. The mission is what's the most important. We really feel it, right? I mean, like I'm an immigrant, and the first time I learned about for a credit score was through Credit Karma, and I learned how to make financial progress very quickly from the app as well. And we know that's not a one-off experience. Like millions and millions of people told us that's the case. So I think that's the first thing, first and foremost. So everybody understand what the mission is, which means that the importance of getting it right, the importance of protecting the data and the privacy. It's like number one. So that's non-negotiable. Okay, from then on, if you're a product engineer, so you typically we want to make sure that you're an engineer first and foremost, but you also have the product head on and really have that empathy of so if you're in auto loan, I think you mentioned a bunch of verticals there. So we also are in Canada, we also in UK, we also have neobank. So we do have like this broad, very, very large surface areas. And now with Intuit, we have tax, which is our biggest vertical actually, right? So and tax is it's like very, very deep, very complicated, it's a lot of this kind of thing. So we do want to make sure we have our engineers who spend the time on the engineering side, but also think through what depends on what vertical they're on, what exactly it is that our members need to do. So those are on a product engineers working with the product, having that product mindset. And so we do have data science team and the machine learning. Again, like we have to make sure that they understand to deliver the best value for the members. We always want to make sure they understand how to translate that into what they do. So horizontal functions, security, and platform, a lot of those kind of things. I think those are all drawn from that value. But then but they themselves then translate into what's really important for them. And then we want to make sure those are measurable as well. And then lastly, it's a culture, right? I think when you talk, you talk to maybe the most amount of tech leaders, maybe anyone in the world, and and they can tell you that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like culture. That's the culture here is that you gotta know, you gotta know your stuff, right? The craft skill is really important. But number one, number two, instilling that sense of I don't know what to call this other than kind of like this the culture of debrief. So we we had this Blue Angels pilot come to us, and and they all talked about like how every performance they went into a room and being very self-critical of themselves, what they can do better. And it's not a finger pointing, like they point their finger to themselves and go really deep into like what they can do better. And I think that's what I love about our culture. That's kind of what we want to instill. It's like there's always ways to do better. It's always easier to think about how other teams can do better. You can give that feedback, but then but the first exercise should be like what you can do better, right? And then collectively we think about like as a system together, like how we can like do better as well. So I think that culture of like making sure that your stuff, what you can do better, and then work together. So that build that trust among each other. Because at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you're right. There's data science, there's the ML ops, there is security, there's core services. There are so many of them. So, but it starts with like the belief of the why, and then that culture of like, could I have done better? And then let's have like a very tactical plan to keep getting better at it.
And listening to you there, I think one of the repeated themes in our conversation today is how behind the scenes at Credit Karma, it's balance that plays such a massive part in your success and delivering those experiences that as users, we're probably guilty of taking for granted. And also, I would say culture is often the invisible engine behind high-performing teams. We always talk about the technology, but it's the culture that needs to bring that to life. So how do you foster things like autonomy, trust, and velocity, all while keeping technical and ethical standards high? Because once again, it's balance, right?
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. I feel like on autonomy, I do feel a bit more fortunate at that part of it, partly because I value autonomy really highly. So to me, it feels like I want to make sure I treat folks the way I want to be treated. So it starts with like what if I don't have to be involved, if I don't have to make that decision, it's like why? I mean, so let them so start thinking about like what are the parameters there that I really do not need to be involved. In most decisions, you don't really. Like I don't, right? Like I think it's pretty famous now, the whole one-way door and two-way doors. So those things are, I always index on that, making sure that it's not just about autonomy, brings more engagement, but it's also learning, right? I mean, and then I like surprises too, good surprises. It's like you let people, and they do it differently than you, and then the outcome a lot of time is even better, and that's nice. I mean, so I think it starts with like just understanding the value of autonomy. It's not autonomy for autonomy's sakes. What is the value, and you really need to like believe in it. And then after that, it becomes a part of your day to day. Now that said, you also need to make sure you have a very clear understanding and guidelines when you need to step in. I don't know if you have kids, Neil. I mean, it's like when I have two now, 21, 15 years old, I don't have to do this, but when they were younger, I think I have to like step in. I was like, hey, when it's about the health and safety. Maybe there's one more I forgot, but like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I have to be like, your mean parents here. Like, it's kind of the same thing. Like, I mean, like I talked again and again about making sure that the privacy and the safety. A lot of the time is about contextualizing as well, right? So I forgot to mention that actually, to give people the best autonomy, you have to contextualize. It's very important. If they don't know why certain things happen, and so you have to be, they're not going to be able to do a good job, and then a lot of people ended up blaming autonomy or the people executing. No, maybe it's your fault for not contextualizing it enough. So I think contextualizing is very important, right? And part of the contextualization is to also let everybody know, like, what parts of things that are non-negotiable. If you're negotiating too much with your with another engineering team or whatever other teams, what is the rule there? It's like, how long is too long? Again, like safety, I will talk about that, privacy, and then all those things. And then rules like when you're scaling, I mean, it's very important too. We do experiment a lot, right? We experiment a lot and we go fast, but not all experiments are successful. Actually, minority of them are successful, which means like we have to move fast. And how do you do that safely? But then when you're ready to scale, it's another thing entirely. Like we have to bring in all this like processes, which is the reason there is for good reasons, because scaling in our world is something else, with the amount of data, and a lot of those kind of things that we have to deal with. So I think there's, as long as people understand, right? Here's the paved path. Here's the rules of the road. And then you contextualize to them. Then you have to reinforce that by letting them explore. And then when they come back, when make mistakes or whatever, you have to celebrate it. I think very quickly people figure out like, oh, okay, this is the way it works. And most of the people that I know, will they wouldn't want anything else than that. So.
Love it. Something else I wanted to highlight here is I think traditionally speed has always been seen as a competitive advantage across the tech industry. But on the flip side of that, in fintech, trust is absolutely everything. So again, back to that B word again, balance. How do you strike that balance when developing new products or platform changes?
Yeah. We have, I'll go over the boring part first, which is like necessary, right? So you got to have the process. You're going to have ways to make sure the process is followed. There is no magic behind it. This is the whole checklist, mentality and manifesto. Like, we've developed that over the years and it has worked for us, knock on woods. You need to have a team. So this is a process of tools, culture, in a team. So we have security team. We have Intuit security team, which is a Credit Karma security team is part of as well. So we've been able to like cross pollinate, and from both sides, and then trying to like make sure we have the best of both worlds over there, and people who are whose job is just that, right? So making sure there is no conflict of interest. And then we always have to go back and look at the data, right? And then see what works, what didn't. So I'll give a brief example here, just to like make it come to life. Everybody now is trying to figure out how to like bring GenAI tools to their engineering teams. So if we had used our previous process to vet third-party tools, we would not have onboarded Cursor or Windsurf or Copilot, because we have to be conservative. We have to make sure that those things actually add value, and then there's it's like 1,000 other things we have to look at. But I think but we know that I think for where it is right now, we have to adjust. So I think we've been able to work with the legal team and security team, and making sure that we balance that. Like we've been able to like quickly onboard these tools, and a lot of the time, Neil, I think a lot of it is like, there's no magic pill here, other than you're gonna have to understand it's a risk reward equation. And then if you're taking on more risk, you also need to make sure the observability is there, right? So so you can react very, very, very quickly. There is no such thing as 100% secure system, but what is there is that the mentality of like bad things can happen, but you want to be there. You want to be the first one to catch, and then nip it in the bud as quickly as possible. So I think that's it's an equation now that we are very comfortable moving from one spectrum to the other, because we've developed the muscle, what it means to be on one extreme end to the other, and we are comfortable kind of operating in between as well.
And if we were to look a little further ahead, I'm curious, what emerging technologies or indeed platform evolutions excite you the most as you begin to build the next phase of Credit Karma's intelligent financial guidance? Anything that excites you out there? Any technologies or anything out there that got your eye?
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, like I'm gonna join the herd here. I try to be snowflake special sometimes, but hey, sometimes the crowd is right. I mean, agents, so Intuit is part of the contributing group on the A2A, agent to agent specification. I think there was an announcement a few months ago during Google's I forgot the name of it, but anyway, the main Google conference. So that is for real, right? I mean, so in the fintech world, in London, like in UK, you guys have open banking. So we have a UK Credit Karma product as well. So that is a big advantage. So because we have a team there, I mean, like, I'm always jealous. It's like, hey, in the UK, some of these things that in the US is so hard, like over there, it's just, you have it, like the way you guys do auto insurance as well. I mean, anyway, there's a lot of things to like about the forwardness of the UK law there in terms of the financial data. In the US, I feel like we're still lagging. So why am I mentioning this? It's because I think when we talk about agent to agent, we can talk about having MCP. So a lot of these things is not less is about the technology, right? I mean, if you look at the spec, it's kind of like, oh, okay, like what's new there? Well, what's new? I mean, it's simple. It's pretty easy to understand. But what's really exciting though is the consensus, right? So suddenly, companies like Intuit, and I don't know, I look at the list of it's everybody there. So so my hope is that without federal regulation, like heavy-handed, and then taking years and years, which just take a long time anyway. This is more about like, hey, if the critical mass of the fintech players, whether you're a big bank or a small startup, agree on adopting this, then you can basically that's the faster way to create an open banking like environment that's enabled by open banking like in UK. So So it's the technology is there, but the consensus needs to be there, which I think is creating. Then you being able having like agents to agents talking to each other, and then using tools through MCP protocol, all those kind of things. It basically only spells win for the users, for all of us, for our customers. But again, like the safety part of it needs to be there. Just going back there because it's easier to build fast. But it's a lot more interesting and harder to make sure that it's the safety is there. So I'm really excited to see where it's coming, where this is going. There is so much potential there. But yeah, let me stop there. Oh, one thing is that I'll just add that I think Intuit from when we talk about agent, I think there's a lot of like most companies that are building agents, as far as I know, it's there is no such thing as a fully autonomous agent, right? So, but a lot of agents are like impressively autonomous. But a lot of people are also building agents that are, it's a glorified version of a workflow engine. And the truth is, it's probably something in between. It's like if you really build an agent that is actually useful and doing something for you. Not just like words, just like advice and, chat and stuff like that. The truth is you're going to have to mix those. And I think Intuit has done a really awesome job. If you saw our latest press release there, how many agents are right now available on QuickBooks, that is impressive. I think those things, like the bookkeeping agent, a payment agent, accountant agent, those things are, I think, is really like you have to start somewhere, but where it is right now, I thought, the team there has done an awesome job.
Absolutely love it. And as you said, we are living in an incredibly exciting time, and all this talk of AI and agents, agentic AI is incredibly exciting, but it can be challenging just trying to keep up with the pace of technological change right now. So before I let you go, I'm going to ask you to leave a few tips here. Where or how do you self-educate? How do you keep up to speed with everything?
We live, I mean, when I remember when I was right now, first the short answer is just like how do you not self-educate, right? I mean, like when I grew up, I was born in Indonesia, and when I was like, I got my first computer when I was 8 years old, and I remember like there's magazines back then. This is like mid 80s. I'm dating myself here, but going to the library and then going to magazines and then like BBS. I mean, like you have to work a lot. You have to learn. You have to figure out how to learn, and it takes not just that. And then you have to spend a lot of time. These days, I mean, you throw a stone. I mean, you open up your, you go to YouTube, you go to conferences, you talk to people, you talk to your team. I think it starts with like make sure you're very clear, like what you're passionate about. Well, first and foremost, be good at learning. So if there is a new thing and you need to get to a decent level, 60-70%, make sure you're like figure out how. Most people can do it. Like I don't have to tell you how, but to get to a decent level, very very quickly. There's so much resources. Number one, it's all just coming like from whether you want it or not, right? Like I said, YouTube, books, audiobook, whatever, it's podcasts like this, a lot of them. What I found, I think is trickier. I think it's like when you're trying to pick and choose now, like what areas, because from good to great, it takes a lot more effort, right? So you really have to be very intentional. What areas do you think, because you want them all, but then you can't have them all. So what areas do you think like you really want to invest time? So this whole explore versus exploit, you gotta balance it. You got to keep exploring. You got to be good in a lot of things, right? Because otherwise, how do you know which ones you want to be great at? And then you exploit, like you figure out like which one, like pick two, pick one, whatever, 1, 2, 3, 3 is the most, and start getting deeper and deeper into it to a point where you felt like, there is a reason why you want to master it, and you actually get what you need out of it. But again, like I think all the mode of learning are all there in front of us. So we are living in a embarrassment of wealth right now in terms of like information out there.
Yeah, and I think that is a powerful moment to end on. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today and sharing your insights. For people listening wanting to find out more information about all things Credit Karma and the latest developments there, where would you like to point everyone?
Credit Karma is an app. They download it, and then we also have our website. Where we have a ton, I think, of information about your financial progress. Intuit, of course, we have a very active, I think, engineering blog. You can take a look at that as well. Really an honor, Neil. It's been a pleasure talking to you this morning. Or this afternoon for you.
The honour is completely mine. I will add links to everything there, including the engineering blog too. I think that'll be interesting to keep up to speed with. And I, for one, have loved learning more about how Intuit and Credit Karma are modernising your data platform to unlock new levels of personalisation and engagement. And with Credit Karma's 140 million members. It's an absolute staggering number there, and the technology and all the things that go on behind the scenes. It was great hearing about it today. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you, Neil. My pleasure. So here we at Credit Karma, we run about more than 60 billion predictions a day.
I think hearing my guest story today shows just how much thought, culture and engineering muscle all goes into making financial guidance feel effortless for over 140 million members. And whether it be unifying tech stacks or running more than 60 billion AI predictions a day, I think it's a masterclass for me in balancing innovation with trust. So please, if you've enjoyed today's conversation, share it with someone who's curious about where fintech is heading next, maybe someone who would benefit from some of the lessons that we've learned today. And ultimately, talk to me. Tell me, if you had that data platform and AI power like they have at Credit Karma, what's the first financial challenge that you would solve? As always, techblogwriter@outlook.com, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. Remember to check out Tech Talks Network. We've got 8 shows over there. We've got some pretty big names and so many fantastic insights. So check that out, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another guest. Bye for now.